Ambassador, it's very enlightening to know from you that when you say that we will not repeat 1989, and there is seems to be a realization in the U.S. administration. Some of the officials have been saying that the war in Afghanistan has become a bleeding ulcer, and similar statements were made by Mikhail Gorbachev when the Soviet Union was withdrawing from Afghanistan. Can we infer from your statement, once you say that we will not repeat 1989, that the U.S. is losing the battle on the ground in Afghanistan, as well as the battle for hearts and minds?
That in 1989, after the Soviet Union left Afghanistan, the United States lost all interest in Afghanistan and turned its back on the region, with results that led directly to 9/11 and to the war today. So what I want to be clear on is we're not going to do that again. Our commitment to this part of the world is long and enduring, and is not just combat troops. The combat troops won't stay forever. There will be economic development that must continue for a long time of Afghanistan. We must continue to train the police and army, and that will go on long after the combat troops have gone.
And Ambassador, you said that you will not discuss what transpires in one-on-one meetings between General Kiani and you. And during the last 18 or 19 trips you have made to Pakistan, you have always been full of praise for Pakistan military, as you just praised them just now for their operation in the tribal areas.
And in the floods.
And in floods. But the reports we keep getting from the U.S. as well as from Pakistan is that the U.S. and Pakistan relations are at a new level now, and there are a lot of differences. There's a lot of suspicion. You suspect Pakistani intelligence agencies of sponsoring a proxy war in Afghanistan, sponsoring the groups, as you just mentioned, which launch attacks against the U.S. coalition forces. And those differences are cropping. And Pakistan itself blames the U.S. for not doing enough in providing relief to Pakistan, as well as in supporting Pakistan, and as well as for pushing the war in Afghanistan into Pakistan.
I'm not sure what you're saying. If you're suggesting that U.S. relations with Pakistan are at a low point now, I don't agree with you. I think they were at a very low point when we took office last year. They're much better today. We have a new and dynamic policy of assistance. We have a new ambassador who has been personally helping deliver relief to the flood victims. We have a very engaged public diplomacy with a new team in place here in Islamabad. Secretary Clinton has personally put in a great deal of time. Government officials used to talk about a trust deficit between the two countries. No one talks about a trust deficit now. Close personal relationships with President Zardari, Prime Minister Gilani, Foreign Minister Qureshi, Finance Minister Sheikh, and the other members of the government, and a continual dialogue with GHQ. So I do not think that your statement is correct. Also, even though Americans are still not very popular here, the number of people who are feeling positive towards the U.S. is double what it was a year ago. So something must be going in the right direction.
I must say one last question. This war against terror has been going on for the last almost 9 years, and there have been reports that heat-seeking missiles have also been supplied to Taliban militants, and they are increasingly being used against the international coalition forces in Afghanistan. From where the insurgency is being supported, the weapons and the money, can you specifically identify the sources of funding and the weapons for the insurgency in Afghanistan as well as in Pakistan?
I'm more concerned about the kind of attacks like the one that took place in Karachi 2 or 3 days ago. But it is a constant struggle against the terrorists. There's no question about it. And their blatant targeting of innocent people, even in the center of Karachi, is something just terrible to watch. And we have to work together to defeat it.
Ambassador, my question was sources of funding of weapons, sources of funding as well as supply of weapons.
The sources of funding appear to be primarily coming from outside Pakistan, and also extortion, which to some extent takes place against convoys bringing supplies into Afghanistan. So this is a very serious issue, and we're working very hard on stemming it.
Oh, yes. Imtiaz.
Yes.
Imtiaz. I'm sorry.
Okay. Ambassador, when we talk of the trust between the two countries, to what extent is North Waziristan or the army's reluctance to go into North Waziristan a stumbling block in the way of restoring trust between the two countries? And a follow-up would be, how do you see the role of Pakistan in facilitating the reconciliation process in Afghanistan? Because there are suggestions in the press coming out of Washington that Pakistan is presenting itself as the key facilitator in this process. Is that true?
Well, on your first part of your question on North Waziristan, this is a tactical decision that can only be made by the Pakistani army, and they feel they don't have the resources right now, and I think they have a point. I hope that this event will take place, but I'm going to leave it to GHQ to decide how and when. This is Pakistan, and the United States cannot dictate to the Pakistani military. In regard to the Pakistani role in reconciliation and their willingness to play a role, well, I think that the central point here in regard to your question, and it's an important issue, is the issue of the relationship with the Afghan government. If the Afghans and the Pakistani governments do not work together, there's no possibility of success and an end to this war. The enemy can always exploit the border. They can move across the border. The two countries have to work together to solve this problem. That is simply self-evident. And so we encourage that kind of cooperation. We continue to. And if that means that the Pakistanis want to play a supportive role in reconciliation, that would be welcome as well.
One follow-up.
I want to stress this, though. If Pakistan wishes to play a role in support of reconciliation, that would be welcome.
One follow-up on President Karzai's presence in the presidential palace. Have you got any indication from the Taliban and from other militants that he would be a stumbling block in the way of opening dialogue among the Afghans? Because he
President
is not President
Karzai?
Karzai. His presence as on top of the government is a big obstruction in the way of...
That's not an acceptable position. He is the elected president of Afghanistan, and you can't negotiate around him. And in addition, he's made many, many efforts to reach out to the Taliban. So if you're saying that the Taliban precondition to a negotiation is the removal of President Karzai, that's an unacceptable situation. The international community, including the United States and your government here in Pakistan, support the government of Hamid Karzai. And that's simply a fact that the Taliban will have to deal with. It's a reality.